Hi, I'm Tracy from PoppyLady.com, and today I'm going to show you how to hand make your very own wreath and how to make a garland, which is a very similar technique. The first item that you need to buy, this is called a wire form, a wire wreath form, and this is a 14-inch form. You can find them between literally like 8 and 16 inches, and they're talking about how wide this form is. You can find the 8-inch forms at the dollar store. Actually, I found this at Walmart for about $3. They've been a little bit harder to find this year, so if you want to make a wreath, buy now, buy ahead, and buy as many as you think you'll need, because I haven't been able to find them at any of our craft stores around town. This is 14 inches, and this is probably my favorite size for working on the door wreath. You're going to need some kind of clippers. They don't have to be fancy, they just have to be able to clip greens. And then you need paddle wire, and this is 20 gauge paddle wire. This is about $2 or so. You can find it at any craft store. Okay, and then in terms of greens, I would recommend going to a flower wholesaler. You can sometimes purchase as a person of the public. They might have different hours, so look online or call ahead. But basically you need 3 bundles of greens to make one 14-inch wreath, and there's some fudging in that. If you want to forage them from your neighbors or somewhere around town, we usually say ask permission first. But you do need more greens than you think, so keep that in mind if you're foraging your own. That's definitely the cheapest way to go about. Otherwise, each of these bundles is about $3 to $5, so you're looking at $12 to $15 for one big size wreath. All of these greens dry pretty nicely, so you can kind of have it as a fresh wreath, spray it with a water bottle every few days to keep it as green as long as possible. And then after that, it just dries out and it has a different look, which you might enjoy even more. These are an olive branch. This actually has olives on it, which I don't necessarily love, but I have seen it without the olives. This is called cedar, so if you're doing more of a holiday wreath, this is really nice and it smells great. This is seeded eucalyptus, so it has these fun little berries in it. This is one of the more classic ones that I've worked with over the years. This is called silver dollar eucalyptus, and so it's really billowy. You can see that you can see through it, so you need quite a bit of this to do a wreath. You might need 4 if you were just doing a wreath out of this. And then this is magnolia leaves. This is a fun one too, because it has this copper color in it, so it's something a little bit kind of funky. And then I found these as kind of accoutrements. This is rosemary, which has a nice, fun, festive look. And these I was really excited about. These are called silver bells, and I don't know much about them, but they are a very nice kind of color added to it. So today I am kind of wanting to try something new. The way that you make the wreath is the same no matter which materials you're using. But I am going to do 2 olive branches and 1 seeded eucalyptus, and then I'm going to be like peppering in some of this rosemary and silver bells. So I'm going to cut off all my branches, and the first thing that you want to do before you get started is start making bundles. So you work off of bundles, and the most important thing when you're making a wreath is to make sure that all of your bundles are about the same width and height and have about the same mixture of greens. Otherwise it starts to look wonky. So if you can try to keep that in mind, it may be helpful for you to make all of your bundles ahead of time and have them all laid out. Otherwise you can kind of bundle as you work. I've done both. So each branch that you have is going to have like 1 main stick and then sticks coming off. You're going to try to either pull off all of these little sticks, or you could clip them. I've done it so long that now I just pull them off with my finger. Found it easier. So you're going to basically break down all of your greens to be these little mini sticks. So again, I'm just pulling everything off. You want it to be somewhat long enough, like this would be a nice kind of additive, but it's not quite long enough to be a main stick. But you'll use everything, so really, and keep your pile close, because I'm going to throw these out. I probably will come back to grab these if I'm short on greens, so make sure they don't get totally trashed. You want obviously the edge to be what comes off of the wreath, so it will be like that. If you have some of these that are like a stick end, that would look weird coming off of the wreath, but it might work for some kind of bulk filler, so I still hang on to those. And these look to be, I would probably make my bundles about 6 to 8 inches long. And again, it's kind of messy, but I'm just pulling things off. Again, you could clip it if you want to ahead of time or as you're making the bundles. And I definitely recommend blasting some Christmas music. Make this like a nice relaxing activity. This is a fun thing to do with girlfriends. I normally do host like a wreath making event every year, but we're not doing that this year. So hopefully you guys can all make it at home. While you're making these, like some of these leaves aren't gonna look great. That's like a caterpillar got to that. Just pull them off, it's fine. Or you can pull them off after the wreath is made, it's no big deal. So again, this is about how big I'm cutting the branches that I will be working off of. So now, since I'm doing mostly the olive with a little bit of eucalyptus, this is basically what one bundle is gonna look like. And the 4 to 6 inches here is what you're gonna see. This part is wired to the wreath frame, so I kind of trim this end here and it's gonna be wired right here. So I have 2 or 3 olive branches in the back, 1 eucalyptus in the front, and I'm gonna try to make all of my bundles about the same. So let me just do a few bundles here so you can see. So now I have 2 eucalyptus, and then I liked having a little bit of seeds. Don't overthink it, you guys, just go with it. That guy looks weird, I'm just pulling him off as I go. That one and that one. It's a little bit shorter. If you can, as you're working, grab the scraps and throw them off the table, otherwise it gets a little bit tricky. Okay, so these are 2 of my bundles. You see how they look somewhat the same? Olive in the back, eucalyptus in the front. I'm gonna do one more. And again, you just have to remember how you're working and don't get creative halfway through, or else your wreath won't look the same all around. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so now I have that one, and this one. One's a little sad. And I'll probably want to add some of this rosemary as I go. I don't know that I'll do it on every single one. We'll see how it looks. Okay. So to start, you're going to be laying each bundle on the frame at kind of a little bit of an angle like that. And you never cut your wire, and these bundles are not, they're just loose. They're not wired together or anything. So actually I think these bundles are not quite big enough. This is gonna need 2 bundles for one. Yeah, that's better. See how that makes a big difference? So you just kind of have to see what looks good and work with it. I wanted to do one of these silver bells. Ooh, guys, how pretty is that? I love that. Oh my word. Oh, that is gorgeous. Okay, so I'm just pulling the wire around tight once and then twisting it off. This is not a science. You can do this however you can get this thing to stay on. So I did it once, and now I'm going to wrap again. Okay, can you see that? I'll take a picture and put it on the post. Okay, so now my next one that I'm laying on, this is the top, these are the sticks. This is the top. I'm gonna lay this right over this wire here so that it hides the wire. See that? And now I'm gonna just, again, I have not cut this wire. I'm gonna just keep going. You can drop it and pick it back up if that's more helpful. Otherwise, just keep going. I'm doing each one about 3 or 4 times, which might be overkill, but I like a nice secure wreath. Okay, I'm cruising along. Oh, that's a lot of extra stuff on that one. Stick looks weird. You might have to just kind of zhuzh along, see what looks good. That somehow this stick got in. It's nice. Silver bells, silver bells, it's Christmas time in the city. Okay, again, you're gonna keep looking at it from an arm's distance, seeing how it's coming along. I'm reaching the end here. This is where I'm worked to. This is my first bundle, so as you get close, you're gonna peel this back and tuck in bundles. I probably need 2 more bundles here. So just kind of keep that in mind that you'll be peeling this up as I'm working with the final 2. So this last bundle I'm working with, I wanna make sure the tail is not long. It needs to be pretty short. I'm peeling this back. I'm gonna tuck this in right here. I think I do need another bundle actually. So this isn't quite maybe my last one. You can look and see. But you definitely end up needing more bundles towards the end than you think. Okay, so if this lays flat over it, you can tell it needs one more. So we'll do one more there. Okay, now I hopefully actually really have my last bundle. Again, I'm peeling this first bundle back. I'm gonna place this covering, and the tip of my last bundle is gonna be wedged right in between so that it folds over like that. If you had a buddy, it would be nice for them to kind of peel back that other leaf for you, but otherwise you just kind of zhuzh it along like that. Okay, and then that one should lay flat. Look at that. Once you have your finished gorgeous wreath, you can go through and trim out some pieces to make it a little bit more symmetrical if you'd like. I went through and trimmed out some of the bigger kind of chunks. For example, here might be a nice place to trim. And you can see, you can just thin it out as needed if you wanted a little bit more round. Otherwise, you can pick one of the biggest part to be your bottom. And then with your nature elements, it's good to use in odd number, but space them evenly. And so I got these Brazil nuts at Trader Joe's. I found these bunny tails at Trader Joe's. I found dried florals. You can find them on Etsy, or I found them at a local florist. I got some pine cones from Michael's, some of this dried hydrangea from the yard. So the sky is the limit with all of the dried elements, and find whatever looks fun. You can also go to a wholesale flower place. If you go to buy the wreath bundles, you can look there and see if they have anything fun. You can add ribbon bows, whatever you're into. I'll show you how to do succulents in them as well in a minute. But this wreath, I'm just gonna do these Brazil nuts. And so I'm gonna put hot glue on the bottom, like third here. And again, I've laid out all of these since they're bigger ahead of time. It's better to lay them out and then glue instead of gluing and placing as you go. And so this guy, I think I want here, I'm just tucking in that bottom and then pressing hard as it dries. Cinnamon sticks might also look really nice in this wreath. Okay, so now I have all my Brazil nuts. I was thinking of doing a few little pine cones as well. Let's see. Maybe I'll just do a handful. So again, just a dollop of hot glue and then putting it on the bottom. Dollop of hot glue on the bottom there. And again, I said to lay it ahead of time, but you can, I'm not doing that. Dollop. Hot glue, maybe one over here. And if you put something in and it looks wrong, you can yank it out. They're not permanently put in. And if you mess up really badly, you can glue some stuff back together There's nothing that's permanent that you can mess up with a wreath. You can always redo something. Okay, let's do one more of these guys over here. Again, you tuck the bottom of your element under the leaves in front of it, so you should never see an entire item. Some of it should be tucked. Okay, I had wanted to do some of these, I think, white flowers. That would look really pretty in there, yeah. So I don't in general love like a big bulky thing. Can you grab some more of the bomb? I kind of split it up. And there you go, Sinu. So I'll just go in and tuck in some of these little white flowers. Oh, I think that looks so pretty. I love it. Throughout. And then once I go through, I'll glue them all in. That's how it goes. Again, I'm just designing and then I'll glue. One way of doing this is to do everything even throughout. So doing the Brazil nuts even throughout and then the white flowers in between. Otherwise, it's kind of nice to do little bundles of items. So you could do 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where it was like a Brazil nut, a flower, and the juniper or the sleigh bell. So it's more of a bundle, but just play around and see what you like best. So the way that you make a garland is exactly the same way that you make a wreath, but instead of building around a form, you're laying flat like this. And how big or small you want the width of it to be, think about the table that you're setting it at. Ours is kind of a thin space, so I'm going to be doing small bundles. You can, in fact, do something like, this is one of the big bundles of eucalyptus. You could just do really billowy. I did this for a wedding, where like this is a bundle, so it's really big and billowy. See how big these bundles are? You cut off the ends. But I'm going to be doing a much smaller version, but you can adapt it to how big your table is. So again, I'm working on a smaller space, so I did a few twigs. Again, if you don't know how to break these down to make bundles, go back to the beginning of my wreath video. I'm doing a few of these olive, a few rosemary, some of this silver dollar eucalyptus, and I'm actually going to add in a little bit of cedar. One thing that I'm finding is that it would be really nice for these all to smell good since it's at the table, and we'll probably be eating at the table. So same way, you're just going to be building the wreath without the form. So I'm going to twist to start. This is the edge of my thing. This can be wire or it can be something as simple as twine. I'm doing wire just because it's a little bit more secure. Okay, and I went through and broke down all of my olive branches ahead of time, which has helped a lot. I'm going through, again, few, maybe that in the back since it's more billowy. So I have these in the back since they're bigger and more billowy, and then the tighter one up front. But rosemary. This is quite a few mixes. If you want it to be more simple, you can just keep it to a handful of greens. But, okay, now I'm going. And so you've got the wire hanging down, and I'm just placing it over. And then I'm going to wrap this around the bottom. See? And you're gonna have to adjust it once you put it on the table that it's intended for, just to make sure all of the wire is hidden. It's kind of busy, huh? What do you think?
Not too busy.
Not too busy?
No.
Think of it.
It's all green. It's multi-textured, I would argue. If you think it's too busy, then you'd take out the little nut-looking guys.
Yeah.
But I think they look nice. They contrast.
Silver bells,
Mm-hmm.
silver bells, it's Christmas time. Again, got the end of my wire there, just placing this guy over the end of that. It does help if you can connect the two bundles by this end of this bundle and the middle of the next bundle, and that way you have a little bit more stability. But again, it's gonna lay flat, it doesn't matter, it's not needing to be held up super well. Okay, you just keep building along. It's helpful if you know the measurement ahead of time of how long you need it to be. And again, you just want to make sure that you're using the same materials each and every bundle in a similar size. Okay, I've come to the end of what I believe my length is going to be. So my next bundle, instead of laying it like this, I'm going to lay it like this and connect these two going opposite ways. And then I'll grab some extra greens, and you could just do it one way, but for tables and stuff, I like having it round out with a pointy end over here. Okay, so this looks good. It doesn't look great, but that's kind of how the end looks. And then I'll use some greens and kind of fluff it up once I get to the table. So I'll probably, yeah, pull a few little guys like this and this. Let's go put it down. Come on. And this is my finished garland. It smells so good. I'm loving the cedar and the rosemary in here, and it's nice and thin just so that it's at the middle of the table, and if you were gonna do a Thanksgiving dinner, you have enough room for plates and dishes and whatnot. Come with me right here. This is the end of the garland. So this is the last bundle that I flipped to go the other way just because I like how it looks a little bit more rounded. You can see the wire right here. So I grabbed a few loose greens and I'm just gonna tuck them in like that. And you may just kind of have to zhuzh it. Zhuzh is the word that represents most floral work. It's a lot of zhuzhing. And then just go through and I laid it all flat, but you may need to just kind of pick up the bundles and pull apart the leaves different places, just kind of fluff it and see, make sure you don't see any wire, and have it all just give it a little bit more volume, and it looks really good. I ended up tucking, I have these two candles, I tucked them under and kind of pulled the greens around them just so that they're on the table. I like how that looks. Huzzah!